No. Anyway.
That's why I like this arrangement, because it's like, it's forgiving. We can just... That's part of the charm.
That's part of the charm. I'll just lean over this way. Hey, okay.
Right. I really don't care if it's tickling you in the face. It's part of the deal. Conversation started.
That's right. So, hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Discovering 615. I'm your host, Rob Thacker, and I'm here today with the lovely and talented Jennifer Templin, the owner of Spry Lifestyle Floral and Entertaining.
Exactly.
Which you can find on Spry 615 entertaining.com. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, Jennifer, thanks for coming today to joining us on Discovering 615. So,
my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we appreciate
Glad you just surprised me and stepped in. You know,
that's right.
Fancy little lifestyle here.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and just kind of get some background on you. Are you a Nashville native? Did you grow up here? Did you move from somewhere else?
Sure.
What's a little bit of your background and your story there?
Well, I'm a West Tennessee girl. I grew up in Dyersburg.
Okay.
So if anyone's heard Dyersburg,
yep.
There you go. I'm one of the crop from there. And my mother, though, was a lobbyist. So we were here in Nashville quite often. And so, I don't know, it was kind of a natural move down the line. A lot of my family lives here. But, of course, I went off to school. I attended UT Knoxville. Okay. And then I transferred to Mississippi State. Study.
Good Bulldogs.
I know. I heard you talking about that. But I do not claim the Bulldogs. I am sorry. Smokey's my dog.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
But and it broke my family's heart. But career-wise, it was the smart thing to do, because they had a program called horticulture.
Okay.
And they were the number one in the country. So I was like, well, that's where I need to be, because I was kind of floundering at Tennessee and having a good time, but not really focusing on studies. But without having gone that route, I would never have had the experiences that I've had that have made my career so different and just rich in really cool opportunities that I didn't even know existed. Because really going into a career like this, you kind of think, okay, I'm gonna own a flower shop. Like, that's the pinnacle of it, you know.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, my eyes were wide opened on a chance meeting. And one of my professors met a woman, and she owned a Sandy Rose Floral Studio in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
They had dinner together, and he was like, well, hey, do you have interns? And they're like, oh, we've never thought about it, because designing for television and film is a little different than just designing for, just in real life, if you will. And so that she's like, sure, if someone's interested, they're going to have to interview. They have to do all the things. So he comes back, and he was like, who wants to do flowers for Days of Our Lives? And of course, my hand shot up. I'm like, that's all you have to say. Because I was raised watching that with my grandmother. But, and so I was like, the chance to do Bow and Hope's wedding, because they, get married 15 times on the show. But anyway, so I did all the things, went out and interviewed, razzle dazzled. They hired me, and they insisted that it was a paid internship. And I was their one and only ever intern. I was there for 7 years. But they hired me. Like,
right.
But one of my first shows, because Days of Our Lives is the hook, but it got bigger and better my first day, because they put me on Friends the first day, and West Wing, and all kinds of these movies. Like, I just had no idea that honestly that they used fresh flowers, number one.
Oh, wow.
And of course, learning that curve of what that means, because sometimes you're filming, you do the initial, taping, and then it's like, 3 months later, we have to reshoot that. Well, 3 months later, this might not be available, like this particular flower. So you have to figure that out. And obviously you work in silks when you have to, and such, and sometimes you have to have prop flowers, like Mr. Deeds was one of that's where I really learned what that meant, because there's a scene where he slides down a banister and lands on a floral arrangement.
Okay.
So it's this big tropical arrangement. It has all these spiky things in it, bamboo, all this stuff. So obviously if someone lands on that, that's not going to go well. So we were literally off to the side, running in another flower arrangement that he could land on, and then bringing the other one back in, to do the back shot and everything like that. So, or the B-roll. And anyway, it was such an extraordinary experience. And then also, I wasn't even thinking about it then, and I actually just kind of thought of it now, but I can always go back to those shows and see my work. And I was like, well, look, not everyone gets to do that. And then I get to tell people, you've probably seen my work.
That's crazy.
But like on Friends, you would never know that that they have like 7. Like Monica has 7 arrangements in her little apartment, and it doesn't mean they're obviously they're not these big huge arrangements, but they're little touches that just kind of finish the moment and help tell a story. Because, they were young kids living in New York, didn't have a lot of money, but they still wanted to have nice things around. And we all know Monica, she was very particular in all the things, and she was a caterer. But just as in life, you often want to help tell someone's story with flowers. And because I was always like, this is interesting, that we're doing all this, because who cares? It's a TV set. But at the end of the day, it's like, but that's the finishing touch of telling someone's story, because you can see them. You can picture Monica and Rachel going out and going to the bodega and picking up flowers and so you think past just the moment that you're being shown, and it really gives them a history. And of course, that's what you do a lot or all the time. You're having to study the characters. So translate that into real life. We translate messaging. We translate emotions. We help create an atmosphere.
Right.
So it's like they say the world is your stage. Well, it is. And you're the main character, of course. So that's a lot of that's how I approach my floral art.
Right.
And but beyond that, after the television and film experience, during hiatus periods, you have to get other jobs. And that's usually about a 2-month period. So I would work on other sets, or go to other designers and work with them. And I found out what event design was. So that's where you go in, and we're not just doing flowers. There's people building. There's architects. There's prop masters. It is a full production. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. And so I worked with Walter Hubert first, and then several other notable designers, and we would do the premiere parties. And so it was the other end of after the movie's done, then you do the premiere party. So that's a whole other experience. And the pinnacle for me was getting the opportunity to work with Colin Cowie, which anyone in the industry will know who he is. He is one of the premier designers of our time. And I traveled all over the world with him. And I was with him, though, as a junior producer. Okay. So I was able to get my producing chops, and especially directly event producing chops. So, which I just think makes you a better designer, caterer, whatever part you are in a field. You need to learn and experience the other parts of the industry around you, so you can work with those people however you fit into the picture, because you need to know that, in the course of an event, where you come in, who you need to wait on, who needs to put their stuff in first. Is it lighting, draping, all that kind of stuff. And getting your feet wet in all of it, despite whatever it is you want to focus on, I think is invaluable. So, but also just being around his incredibly good taste and just seeing the way he maneuvered and worked with clients and how he made them feel, and the presentations, and which is what he let me help with, because he realized I had a creative need. And so he was like, well, help me put together the vision board. So he was like, there's a creative outlet. And I was like, thank you. And then I would often get my opportunities in the craziness of things to help design and florals. And I remember there was a bride that we had. In fact, it was Peter Lynch's daughter. And that was a multi-million-dollar wedding, right? And so she had several wardrobe changes, and she wanted her bouquet to match the, each different gown. Oh, so somehow one of the bouquets got lost. So I had to take the bouquet that she had. I recrafted it in front of her, she loved it, and she ran off and did her, her next reveal or whatever. So getting to do things like that, and it was just like, tell Colin I did that, But again, that was just an invaluable experience.
Right.
And so after that, I moved back here in 2006 and established Reveal Event Style, which a lot of people still probably recognize that name. And anyway, I had that company for 10 years, event design firm, and that's what all of these are representative of. And there's many more, but these are publications and books that I've either contributed to or been a part of. There's even a wedding workbook I was asked to help put together. And so anyway, all the accolades, I was best in Nashville several years in a row. TJ Martell used to host tablescape competitions in major cities around the country. And I would always participate. And the first year I ever did it, I won Most Whimsical. The second year I won Best in Show. So it's like, you have all these things, and it's great to be recognized, of course. But then I was, after my 10-year mark, almost right dead on it, I'd been working with a client for several years. And they asked me if I would be, they wanted to create a role for me within their organization, because it was a corporate organization.
Right.
And so I was like, well, maybe this is just the right time. Like, leave on a high note, and get to focus not on the business part of it, but just on the creative. So I was like, I feel like I should do this. So that's what I did. And so I was the hospitality curator for the C-suite of a healthcare company. And I traveled with the board of directors, and as my client, I was traveling with them on their retreats, and helping create the experiences and the fine details for their retreats. And so they saw something in me that could also contribute to their meeting side. And probably because I wasn't corporate, I came in with a different mindset. So like they were like, you can make this what you want it. So we had a big board meeting, and like one of the first ones, and I set up an herb bar, and I was like, hey guys, I'm setting up an herb bar. And of course they're like, Jen, what? Like legal? What are we doing here? And so I was like, no. I was like, this is, and I said, well, y'all come look. And so what I did is it was almost like a grazing table of herbs and different, like rosemary. Right. And lavender, mint, and what it was, I had a little description of what each one was and what they do for you. And so everyone was to make a little bundle and take it to their seat. And so if they got tired, smell your mint, take a whiff of mint. If you're kind of brain foggy, take a whiff of rosemary, just different little things. But what it did, it created a connection and bonding that had nothing to do with the meeting and the topics of the meeting, but it helped to connect people.
Oh, that's great.
And so this is, that's just one of my many attributes and contributions that I like to bring floral into in different ways that people don't always think of. And so, because of course, yes, I do weddings. Yes, I do parties and love them, love social, love corporate. Anytime I can be creative and touch a flower, I am in my happy place.
Gotcha.
And so, so now, after the, why am I here there?
Well,
why are we here?
Yeah.
So after 2020, everything goes away. The company was bought by private equity. I was not essential. And so I was like, oh, so they can just let you go? Like, hello, corporate world. And so I was like, well, it's, 2020, the timing was kind of weird. So I'm like, well, I'm going to take the break that everyone else is taking. And I really had to do some soul searching, because in my mind, I was like, well, everyone's going to be so happy that I'm back in the, back in the mix of designing for everybody, and all my old clients are going to come running, and all this stuff. And it had been 3 years. And I was like, oh, so ego, calm down, you know. And I was like, but what am I going to do? Because everything's changed. Like the way you market has changed. That's probably the biggest and most daunting, because it's like I have hundreds, if not at least 1,000 events and whatnot under my belt. And I'm like, I have all this content, but it is just hanging in the atmosphere in these magazines or on picture, you know, or in albums. And so I'm like, I have got to start over. So I pulled up my bootstraps and I decided, well, what makes me the happiest in what I do in my space and what I can give back to the world. And there was no doubt I needed to be back touching flowers. And I never stopped designing. I was doing it, what I would say is for joy. So it was like, I would find opportunities and I would make it happen. And, but I wasn't trying to build a business at that point. I'm like, because I'm not ready. I don't know what I want it to be yet. So I took a good amount of time and decided that I wanted to, just jump back in and do the things you have to do the social medias, all the things. And just remember that I know who I am and what I've done, and it's just going to take some time. And because I never had to market. Like I never had to market. People were coming to me and calling me, and I had steady clientele, and I worked with DMCs, which is like my jam, and I would travel with them. And
DMCs, what is that for? Some of the?
Oh, sorry, it's a destination management group.
Okay, gotcha.
So
I
connected.
That's for those that don't know what a DMC is. No, you're fine. You're good.
But,
my wife, I talk the same lingo with real estate. My wife goes, "What was that again?"
Yeah,
I'm like, so you know, totally. Yeah, gotcha.
Get it. No. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I hope I don't do that a lot, but but like the thing is, I want people to enjoy flowers. Not just as special occasion elements, but as lifestyle elements. And like, I know this seems like a lot, and I don't want to be like, I'm so fancy, but this isn't too far off from what I have in my home every day.
Sure.
Because, and of course, it's the industry I'm in, and I have the access to flowers that a lot of people don't, because they're expensive. And they're a luxury. I get that. But there's always ways to get them. Go to the grocery store. Oh, my goodness. Trader Joe's has an amazing selection. Fresh Market. Like, do the thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I just think it's very important for every aspect of life. Just enjoying your space. And a little bit more than the day before if you walk into the room and there's flowers.
Exactly.
So do it for yourself. But, like, I just think we spent a lot of time in Europe in the last couple of years, and it's something that they have down to a science, and I think it's good for your mental health too.
Talk about that, because I wanted to ask you the question, because you talked about you traveled before when you were doing with Colin Cowie.
Mm-hmm.
And what were some of the? And I was going to ask you. I want to ask you that in terms of America, and you mentioned Europe. What are some of the differences there that you saw in your travels? What was like one of the top or couple places that really stuck out in your mind in your traveling? Because I saw that when I was getting ready for this and looking at your website, it said that you had traveled. Talk about that a little bit too, especially in terms of the aspects too with the floral, as well.
Well, I'm just in traveling. I just noticed how it is part of their daily life, and they let flowers dry and they still keep them around, because if you do it right, or if you just kind of leave them alone and let them do their thing, they're still beautiful. In fact, this guy here is full of hydrangea from our wedding that was 1.5 years ago. Oh,
wow.
Now, a lot of it too is that it's the Dutch hydrangea, and it's like the best, and that it dries beautifully, holds its color. But roses, that's a given. And find something cool to do with them. I have a box that I keep around to, when I wrap a gift or send a note, I'm always like gluing on a little flower or something, just a little touch of something. And I make sage sachets, and I'll make a bunch of those. And after like an event or like a wedding or something, I'll make a bunch of them from the wedding flowers and send them back to the client as a gift, as a happy, because I'm this should linger. Like that day should linger. But what I was noticing though is like they are unapologetic about flowers, and they put them on the outsides of their buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Now they may be artificial and whatnot, but it's just there, and it's part of the landscape. And one thing too, the name of my company, Spry.
Right.
I hope that this would be more of an industry thing that I hope people in the industry get. But Constance Spry was one of our most prolific designers of the 19th century or 20th century. 19th. That was last time. I don't know what century.
I think you're right.
The 1900s. But anyway,
20th century. Yeah,
she was out of London, and anyway, the short of it is that she was an unapologetic designer. And she was not doing the standard look of the day. She was going out and foraging and finding crazy wild elements in the wild, big cool branches, all the wild vines and stuff, and chunking them in and then throwing some, cut flowers in. And she's like, if you like it, great. If you don't, I don't care. That's how I feel. Not that I don't want you to love my work, but it's like, be intrigued by it. Like, I want it to be interesting. I would rather people come to me and say, I've never seen anything like that. Right. Or that flower's in my face. Great. Ask me what it is. Like, why do you think I want it in
it's your trademark. I mean, that's the thing. And,
yeah.
And so that's so key. This is your trademark. This is who I am. This is how I design.
Right. Exactly. And even though something simple like that's in your face, but it's a rose lily, which is not like a traditional lily at all. And like, I hope to create conversations, and everyone wants to know what these are. They're bunny tails. Like, oh my God, how fun is that? But part of it, again, is wanting to create conversations, especially when it's in an event, atmosphere.
Absolutely.
But like for your home, though, is where I feel like I really want to preach, if you will, because just like this situation, like imagine this is at a party. Bring this home, and you've got 4 arrangements to put around your house.
Exactly.
Like, take the flowers home. Now, let me asterisk that. Maybe not the containers. Oftentimes, the containers are rented, and your friends will not be pleased with you if they have to pay for containers. But one thing I like to encourage is any of my clients is if they is to do something afterwards with the flowers, whether it's we donate them. There's all kinds of opportunities to donate the flowers. I mean, there's people who don't get to have flowers in their life and don't have the opportunities to go places. So I'm all about the share. But if you happen to, but they're a big investment, especially like for a wedding, right? So I'm like, if there's an event the next day, let's take tell me where it is, and we'll transfer some of the flowers over there. Or bring me some of your vases from home. I will fill them up and I will deliver them back to your house. Right. Or do you have friends? We can share them with like anything, not to just throw them away, because I mean, they're beautiful, and to see them in the trash, that's wasteful. Right. And so I want to provide a service in addition to making your event amazing and stunning, that we carry that on. And I have all kinds of ways of doing that. And again, anything that we can create that lingers. I mean, people always like to preserve their bouquet. Well, what about this giant $5,000 arrangement? Like, let's do something with that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but that's like a house full of flowers for a lot of people. And so, but anyway, I think it's a conversation everyone should have, whether it's with me or their own designer. Like, have that conversation, because at the end of the day, you're exhausted, you've whipped it up all night, and this goes for any occasion. But pay that extra for that extra service, so that at the end of the next day, you're not having like the hangover conversation of, oh my God, like we left all those flowers. That was $50,000, whatever. Or not everyone has a $50,000 budget. I mean, whether it's 500 or that, you should enjoy them the way you choose to, or know that someone else is enjoying them. Yeah. And so I think that was one thing that I don't present forward with weddings, because I think that's a given.
Right.
But because there's all these other opportunities and as a designer, as an artist, I want to have other opportunities too, to be extremely creative. And in weddings, people come in with an idea, and that's beautiful and love it. But again, I don't want to just be a wedding designer.
Right.
So I want the corporate work. I want the house parties. I want the social engagements, like whatever they are. I wanted the gifting side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just a million things to do with it that I feel like we're over here still Sunday reminded that it has to be a special occasion or Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, right?
Which Valentine's Day is coming up in a couple of days. Here.
That's right. It is coming up in a couple of days. And some of this is actually for an event, like I said. But like even just this, like to me, this is a little ode to Constant Spry here, though I could go way wilder. I just haven't had a chance to walk in the woods today. But like working in an actual Matisse rose plant into my roses. These are Westminster roses, and they've been around for a minute. And she's going to actually stay home with me. But I was like, but I'm keeping her going. And what happened is my roses, the Westminsters, ended up being my accent flowers, which a lot of people call filler flowers, which I don't like that term.
No.
Because it makes them seem like they're not important. And all your flowers in any arrangement are important.
Right.
So, and I think that's where things get dumbed down, like the carnation. Because people still snub their noses at the carnation. But I'm like, Gucci has a t-shirt. The carnation is the t-shirt of the flower world. It goes with everything.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it is the simplicity, and it works. It always works. And the thing is, when you really get into it and you start going to the flower markets and things like that, you'll notice that there's variegated versions that are unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And it should go into your, like, whenever, if you do flower pedaling for something, grab some variegated carnations. They're stunning. And wallpapers, fabrics are always mimicking the carnation. Right. So I think it's so funny. And obviously it's in application. And that, we don't do that.
Sure.
I would want you to fall in love with any flower I put together. I would want you to look at it. Oh, it's a carnation arrangement if it has carnations in it. I would want you to see the whole thing and walk around it and put your face in it. And, I want it to be an experience and something that you want to talk about.
Gotcha.
So, sorry.
So, you're fine. I want to ask you, so you're talking about flowers. Is there one flower? Okay, here's a pop question for you.
Yes.
One flower that you just adore working with, and one flower that you would say, I'm not going to work with it, or is it?
Ooh.
Because I was thinking, kind of like just out of curiosity, because you're talking. You mentioned earlier about how some people just stay into carnations, but again, like you're saying, with some of the carnations I've seen recently, it's like, oh, why would you do that?
Right. So it's kind of like asking, who's your favorite child? But like, I get ecstatic to work with amaryllis. Okay. And because amaryllis do so many cool things. And there's these very cool varieties. Kind of like the rose lily. There's a multi bloomed amaryllis that and there is a scientific word for it. And as someone with a horticulture degree, I should know what it is. I can't. Multifloral keeps coming to my head. But anyway, but it's when they have like quadruple the petals that like your traditional would, right? Yeah. So like you have a rose, but then you have a garden rose. So it's like the garden rose version of amaryllis. But what the cool thing is that they do, and it's one of those chance things that happens. So they have these really hollow stems, and if you trim them around the bottom, they'll curl up and make the most spectacular show. I can't even, you have to see it. So, but the thing is, it doesn't always happen. And so it's kind of like, it's something I would not sell to somebody because I haven't perfected how to make it happen consistently. Okay. But it is a surprise element that when it does, it's going in. And so it's like you either have that just dangling out of a gorgeous pot of, or like a I don't know, like something that where it's drizzling down. Like if it was her, it'd be like curling off to her side. Gotcha. Or if you have a giant clear vase, you have them suspended in there, and it is unbelievable when you see it. So I get excited when flowers surprise me and they do this magical thing, and then you get to share it.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
but I am always trying to figure out how to make that happen consistently.
Gotcha. There you go. There you go.
So, and also lady slippers. They're my favorite orchid.
Okay.
And, I don't know. I love all the orchids because there's so many varieties and they do so many different things. And some of them literally look like little ladies, dendrobiums. If you ever look at those, they look like little ladies.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I don't know, the ones I don't love just traditional lilies.
Okay.
So like this lily, she's special.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I don't have one that I do not like, but I don't do a lot with what people would call accent flowers.
Okay.
Or I like face flowers and bold shapes. I like anything. I love the architectural.
Right.
Like your tropicals. But and I like throwing a tropical in. I like the texture. Anything that
Gotcha. Okay.
has texture, I'm all into. And mixing that with things that are soft, so you see everything. But like, I don't know. I hope I've answered your question.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah.
All of it. And anyway, if one like pops in my head, more of a don't one, I'll say it. But apparently I've blocked it out if I don't like it. We just don't do that.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Like the cheaper chicken, we just don't do that.
Exactly. Baby's breath. Okay, how do you feel about baby's breath?
Yeah.
I've heard of other florists call it something else besides baby's breath. So
Gypsophilia.
Or
not nice names.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, talk a little bit about, because when I was looking on your website, you talked about the it's After Hours Haus Flowers.
House. Haus.
House. Okay.
So I married a German guy.
The Milkman Concept. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah. So
very German guy.
Very German guy. And so I was
Great
like, I have to throw some of that in there. I went the German and put House. Haus.
Yeah, it said House. My computer changed it.
That's
changed it to
hilarious.
Hans. Spell check. Curse you. Anyway.
But it made you ask. Yeah. So so that's actually what I was speaking about before. So I get so excited.
Yeah.
But it's the idea of, like I said, the Milkman.
Yeah, because when I saw it, I was like, okay,
which I know some people are gonna be like, the Milkman, because that can go a lot of different ways. But again, I want people to ask.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And again,
so I'm asking.
Constance Spry, going back to her because she's my muse right now. That she had a little wicked side to her, and so like sense of humor, and so that was my little nod again to Constance. So I was like, oh, she would appreciate that. So, but in general, I would love it if people would like get on almost like a subscription list, but it's more like be on a list so that whenever I have an event where we have flowers that are just to do whatever with. Usually that's going to be like a corporate event, or maybe they don't want to bring them anywhere. Or they just want to take back to the office, whatever. But it's like, okay, so you have all these flowers. Ding, ding, ding. Send the text, put out, send me your address. Let me know that you're putting out your vases. And I'll come to your house, grab your vases.
Oh, that's cool.
Boop, 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 boop. And then the next morning, I have them back at your house, and they're filled, with flowers. And then you just put them around your house. So that's the concept.
I love that concept.
And so eventually, I would love to have a truck or a cute little van or a Sprinter that I drive around like an ice cream truck, and everyone comes out with their vases,
That's awesome.
But anyway, that's the concept, and I hope that I can help it catch on, because again, it's really about making sure that people bring flowers into their life, into their spaces, and just enjoy them and let them make their everyday special. And there's always going to be occasions. There's always going to be the special events, but those are way elevated moments.
Right.
But my gosh, a vase of tulips can make everyone so happy, and especially our, like oh my gosh, like the different varieties, like your frisee tulips and your, they have the peony tulips.
Yes.
They're unbelievable. And and I'm blanking. Hold on. Can I do a timeout for a second? I need to remember something.
We can go back.
Oh my gosh. No, because tulips are another one of my favorites.
Yeah,
like
that's,
my
that's
favorite
one. That's one.
tulip.
Actually, that is actually one of my favorite flowers in the spring. I love tulips.
Right. Well, and one
it.
thing that's really cool is, especially when people are drying flowers, is that a tulip will dry.
Really?
Parrot tulips. Sorry, thank you.
I was going to bring those up because I've seen
tulips.
Those parrot tulips are so amazing.
Yes, and so if you give them the chance, especially the thicker ones,
okay,
those are going to dry, and they make the coolest petals. And so when I make my sage sachets, if I have a tulip like that do the thing, they're getting highlighted. I had purple and white striped ones once that were unbelievable, and put on the biggest show for my little sages. But but also going back to like flowers in your home, like if you do end up with like roses, let's just use that.
Right.
So this can become petals for your bath. This can become petals for the bed. Like, do things with them, and then like save a few, and then if you want to make little sachets, make little sachets. Just let them dry. Use those on gifts. Like, there's so many ways to work with them and keep them around and like let them linger, because they're not done. It's just like people, once they get a little time on them, it doesn't mean they're done.
Done. That's right.
But everyone wants to be appreciated. Well, so do our flowers. They want to continue to go to the party.
Exactly. Continue to show up to the party. I love coming back to the Milkman Concept, because I love that, because I'm a big person on community. When I went to Italy in 2019, I saw community is a big deal over there.
Yes.
And I feel like, not to come off political, but I feel like in America we've lost that. So I love talk about that, the concept, because it used to be you knew your milkman. So I love this concept of the flower lady, driving your truck in that. But how has, in terms of with being involved with the community, how some more opportunities? How has the community received you? How have and obviously this concept is a great way to give back to the community too. But,
correct. And it also creates, we can even have an activation with it. And this would be more for like a corporate situation, but imagine you have a dinner the night before and you do flowers. Okay. Well, the next day we set it up as an activation where people make something that they take home with them. And I know I keep going back to my sage things, but they're so universal and they're easy to travel. And again, they linger and all the things. But we can always come up with ways to do that, and send. We can even create something that we send after the event as a reminder of the event. Anyway, I know you asked me a totally different question. So right now the concept is so new that we haven't really done it yet.
Right.
So I'm waiting for the person who wants to guinea pig it with me, and but what we already do is the sharing part. That I just have found that there's a lot of times where I just end up with all the flowers, or with most of them. Like the moms will take what they want, and then they kind of run out and everyone takes their bouquet kind of thing. But and some guests will pick through and like grab a few things, but at the end of the day, they haven't, it would have been one of those times where they're like, well, just do whatever you want to do. Like we're not, because a lot of times people are from out of town too. So they're not like, I don't know we're not connected with anything directly, but do what you think is right. So I will distribute them myself to that, like nursing homes and places like that. And, and women's homes, things like that. And then, but then I still end up with a lot of flowers, and so they end up in my home, and which I love it. But then I just feel like this was someone else's investment, so I'm like, I really wish I could share these with other people in the community without, I don't have a lot of vases to give away either. I don't need it to be an added investment on my end, as well. I have to be thoughtful. It is a business, but so I thought this would be the solution to that, but I just have to get it to catch on. So thank you for allowing me the platform to talk about it.
Yes.
And hopefully other people are as excited. And so, but there's a few things to work out with it, but I also again, I'm gearing back up my clientele list.
Okay.
And so again, I'm so happy to get to talk about what I do, and that it's not just a thing. It's not a hobby. It is this is my lifestyle.
Right.
Right. And this is the thing I've committed my life to.
And did you, and all that too, because I meant to ask this earlier, did you, when growing up, was this something you always wanted to do? Work with flowers, design, and that kind of stuff?
Right. Well, we were always gardening.
Okay.
And so, but most of it was, vegetables and stuff. But
you either love it or hate it.
Right. But I would find myself like gathering the leaves and stuff, and just like putting stuff on, but even like creating like bowls of food. You know what I mean? Like I would organize all the corn and the potatoes and the beans, but I would want it to look nice. Like I had this thing about, I just wanted everything to look nice and put together. I was probably also wasting time because I didn't want to be shelling peas. So, so a lot of things, right? Sorry, Mima. But, and I was always creating, it was more about creating atmospheres for myself when I was younger. And I would reorganize my room at least once a week. I would go into the dining room, and I would like reorganize her china cabinet, which like stressed her out. But like I just wanted things to feel different.
Right. Okay.
I wanted to go into spaces I was always in, and I would even walk to different corners of a room and go, I've never stood here before.
Right.
Like it looks different from this angle. And so it was just me wanting to create space, and like I always wanted it to feel new.
That makes sense. Change up the perspective. Every now and then it's good to change up a room or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Get a different perspective. That's a great point.
Right. And that's kind of what we do as designers, is we go into a space that either people are in all the time, or they just look at it, oh, this is just a blank room, and transform it into something that they can experience in a different way, which to me is also what you can do for yourself, just by adding one little element. It's like, why do we light candles all the time? Because it gives us this atmosphere of calm.
Right.
And like it changes our space to more of a romanticized experience of that space, right? And so again, it's just one more element to add into that mix to like elevate it up just a little bit more.
Right.
And but like when my grandmother, I was always in art classes, and I always needed an artistic outlet. I was that kid. And so my grandmother, when I was, I think 16, was like, you have an aunt that owns a flower shop. Do you want to go in there and just play with some flowers and see what you do? I'm like, sure. So I went in and made 3 arrangements, and they all sold within an hour. And my aunt was like, oh my gosh, like we need to harness this. Like, do you know what you're doing? So it was obviously a gift. And I was fortunate to have been led to a university that had classes that even got into that, because not that they were teaching us how to design. It was more about like, while you're in this, the background of design, studying like Versailles and the parties that they had at Versailles, like the history of why you're doing what you do. It's kind of like becoming a chef. Right. And so, but you also have to learn rules to break. So, and then you need to learn about mechanics, things like that, which are a huge thing in our world. And a lot of people sadly have to learn those things by trial and error. But again, that's what that afforded me to learn all of those things before getting out into the real world and having to be real embarrassed about trying to throw something together that falls apart, And so that's just like a little behind the scenes, like what it takes to, because even just a general arrangement has mechanics in it that keep everything in place, right? Gotcha. And so, but knowing what to do and how to do it and make it look effortless. Okay. Right. Gotcha. But then also the business, we learned the business side of it. And then, and I was president of our AIFD association and all the things, and I did all the competitions, and all that kind of stuff. But like, not everyone has that background in my field. And it's not that you have to, but I feel like that is definitely an asset that I have, that I understand how that, like when I see someone suffering through something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for realizing that was a thing. So, but between that and my degree in horticulture, like I bring all of those things to my design.
So talk a little bit about two things. I'll take this as a two-way
I will
question.
divide it into 10.
We'll divide it with two-pronged question. One is, what are some of the challenges that you face? And then in those challenges and how you've overcome those. And then two, through those challenges, what advice would you give to someone who is thinking, hey, I think I want to get into this industry and things like that?
Sure. Well, I think, and my daddy told me this early on when I got the first job that, in Los Angeles. And he was like, it's real hard starting at the top. And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
How could that possibly be a problem? But I had a lot of things handed to me, I realized. Okay. And now that I've already had like a career and success and all these things. And now it's like, people forget. That's been my challenge, is that people quickly forget. And in a way that's okay, because it's like you get to reinvent yourself. So I went from Jennifer Edwards with Reveal Event Style. I'm all about these three names. To Jennifer Edwards Templin with Spry Lifestyle Entertaining. So it's like, okay, so I've made this transition, right? Still doing the same thing, but I have the background now in the experience to not let maybe the business side of it be so stressful. Because in the beginning, it's like you just want to make beautiful things. And that's what I want to do now every day. But, I feel like if I was like in the 1800s or something, I would have definitely been like one of those starving artist people, because I just want to share my art. Right. I just want to make things beautiful for people. And I don't want to keep what's in here. I'll spend all my money to make you see this thing. Right. But, reality is that you have to run the business side of it. So having a business background is necessary, unless you want to be a designer that you don't want to own your own gig. You want to just be a designer and work for someone else. That's great. Yeah. But if you ever want to have your own situation, that you've got to have a business acumen background. Okay. Yeah. And also legal. Take business law, because it's a lot. There's a lot of things you need to think about. And if you have a staff, or if you even, like myself, I have freelancers. But you have to have things in place. Everyone needs to sign an agreement that, a liability agreement, especially if you're going to be on ladders and things like there's just a lot of things you need to think about. And then if you're traveling, you need to have insurance to cover things that happen on travel events. So there's a lot of business. And if you get that knocked out in the beginning, then the rest of it that's easy. But in our field, it's really hard to see all the shiny things and want to, you have a $5,000 budget, but you want to spend $7,000, because all the pretty things are, and the tulips are in season, so you want all of it, Yeah. But you have to learn to control yourself. So, and it's one thing to be here. I mean, we have great wholesalers here, but it's nothing like, go to New York in their flower market, go to Miami. Oh my gosh. And of course, European, ridiculous, but it is just like kid in a candy store, and everything is just spectacular. And so anyway, just practicing restraint. Okay. And and what was the other question?
Well, I think you actually touched on that in terms of the advice for those.
Okay, good.
Advice wanted for those to get into the business.
But also, this is a good thing, and I will say this for the pause that I took. I loved it. So, like my first reveal, I loved Reveal. I did everything I ever wanted to do, except a runway show. I've always wanted to design a runway show, but I was always afraid that something would happen that would jade me. and I never wanted to get there. So if you feel that, because weddings are a lot. They take a lot of, they're emotional, and they can oftentimes take a lot out of you on an emotional level, because it's an emotional event, and everything matters,
Yeah.
If the roses are the right color, well, their relationship's over, But you know what I mean? But and you just want the best for them, and you want everything to be perfect. But it's a lot. There's a lot of different stresses with that. So I didn't even realize it, but I was a little exhausted of it. And so taking the pause away from, well, I still did weddings, even though I was doing the corporate thing, but I worked them in. But I was like, you know what? I needed a breather.
Okay.
I needed a breather from the business part of it. I needed a breather from the constant give, because especially, and I speak for myself, I am so passionate about it. And I love talking to somebody and getting so excited about their vision. Or if they come to me and go, we're doing this thing, what do you want to do? I mean, that energy is what I live for. But everyone needs a break. And so I think it's smart to always kind of be cognizant of that, and make sure it's always bringing you joy. Because if you get to the point where it's not, just like anything, don't keep doing it, because then you're not going to be the best for your clients. You're not going to give your best. You're not going to care, And so that's something I would just wanted to put out there.
That's great advice. If you lose the joy, you lose
everything. And it shows. It will show in your work.
That's a great point.
Because I think people that, and one reason I don't have a flower shop is I do not want to get into a rut of making the same thing every day.
Sure.
And, or feeling the pressure of having to sell all these flowers. So I have fashioned, and I always have. My reveal was the same way. I have, what do you call it when you commission? I like commission work, if you will.
Right.
And so everything is bought as it's needed. So it's fresh for you, all the things, everything is specific to your event.
Right.
And your wishes. And then, but I like the idea that I can focus on that I'm not worried about, a whole cooler full of flowers that may or may not sell, and I feel so bad for this. So, and I've just seen people get really burned out, and they just lose completely the joy in why they got into it. So, some people want to do that and thrive on it, and I love that for them. But that's not how I want to fashion the joy that it brings me, because I want to keep giving it back to my client.
Good deal. So how can people find you then?
Oh my God. So you can find me on Spry615entertaining.com. You can also find me on Instagram, same handle, Spry615 Entertaining, and also on LinkedIn, but under my name, Jennifer Edwards Templin.
All right. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Everyone, well, check it out, and thanks for joining us. Take care.
Bye.